Started by special guests and dignitaries. District Governor-elect Mickey Ulmer is here. Past District Governor Art McQueen is here. Assistant Governor Jerry Kelly is joining us today. And our very own Alton and Gwen Yates are here in person. So please, round of applause to welcome everybody. Great to see you guys. Like to begin with a memorial tribute, and if I could have Preston please join me up at the podium.
Thank you, President Zane. Good afternoon, everybody. A number of years ago, our club began a tradition of honoring great members who had passed on in the past year. This is one of the most important things that we do as a club. Each of our past members has made an indelible mark on our club as it exists today. And so today we're honored to present a memorial resolution to Dave Collier. And with us are his wife Glenda, his daughter Karen Parker, and sister-in-law Kathy Bennett. And if I could ask the three of you to come up with me, stand behind me if you would, please. Also today, with us today, as Dave's longtime breakfast buddies, are Al Yates, Ron Roberts, and Bill Shy. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas Henry Davis Collier Jr. was a longtime member of the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville, served as president of the club, had many years of perfect attendance, was a Paul Harris Fellow, and was a Rotarian for more than 47 years. And whereas he was born on June 10, 1932 in Tifton, Georgia, and died on April 10, 2023 in Jacksonville, Florida. And whereas he graduated from Tifton High School, where he was an Eagle Scout. And whereas he graduated from Auburn University, where he was a member of the Phi Delta Theta fraternity. And whereas he served on the Auburn University National Alumni Board and was president of the Tampa Auburn Club and Jacksonville Alumni Club. And whereas after graduation from Auburn, he served in the Army Signal Corps, where he taught electronics and radio repair. And whereas when his service in the Army was completed, he was employed by Burroughs Corporation for 20 years, and 1 year was named Boss of the Year by the Tampa JCs. And whereas he was active in the Education Committee of the Tampa Chamber, the Advisory Board of the Technical Adult and Vocational Education Committee, and the Tampa Bay Arts Center. And whereas he moved to Jacksonville to serve as general manager of Lewis Business Products. And whereas he then joined Kidder Peabody, an investment firm later acquired by Merrill Lynch, where he spent nearly 23 years. And whereas he was a member of Riverside Presbyterian Church, when he served as a deacon, a trustee, and elder, and where he further served on the board of Riverside Tradition House and the board of Riverside Residences. And whereas he served on the board of Learn to Read, and whereas he served on the board of trustees of the Florida Community College at Jacksonville, and as president of the college's foundation. And whereas he survived by his beloved wife Glenda and many loving children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Now, therefore, the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville expresses its deep appreciation to his maker and sympathy to his family on his passing for the faithful life and work of Henry David Collier Jr. and for his long and dedicated membership in and to service to this club. The Rotary Club of West Jacksonville by Dane Jansen, President, and Carter Rosenblum, Secretary. And so it's an honor to present you with the memorial resolution that we hope that you enjoy and capture some of the spirit that they had.
Thank you. Thank you, Preston. That is great. And thank you to Dave's family for sharing him all those years. They don't make Rotarians any better. So thank you very much. Now I'd like to call up Ed Lombard and Austin Nicholas. So a lot of you have met Austin Nicholas. He's going to be a new member of our club. Local boy, went Fernandina Beach High School, University of North Florida. Him and his beautiful wife, Sierra, expecting their first child, a son, in early February. He used to work for Aaron Bean, both at the State House and the State Senate as his aide for numerous years. Now he's head of governmental relations for Northeast Florida Builders Association. So let's give a warm West Jacksonville welcome to Austin Nicholas. All right, Austin Nicholas, you have been elected to membership to the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville because 1, you are a leader in your vocation. 2, you exhibit the qualities that make you a leader in the community. And 3, you have demonstrated the desire to serve others in our community and around the world. You already exemplify what it means to exemplify our Rotary motto, service above self. It is a pleasure to induct you into the West Jacksonville.
Briefly that I really appreciate this honor and being allowed into the club, and you have a really strong reputation over the years, and I've always been in and out of Rotary clubs with my other jobs, and I always noticed how involved everyone is and how you do a lot of good for the community. So again, I'm just honored to be a part of the club, and look forward to getting to know all of you better.
And now, usually we make a joke about giving you your first check and all that kind of stuff. Congratulations. All right, Tom Schneider has a pop-up about the blood drive.
Sure, the food drive is underway. We've got almost 2 hours left. The big ring bus is graduating and part of the parking lot from here till 2:30. And my wife is actually in there right now. She'll be joining us in a few minutes, but please give generously.
Very good, thank you, Tom. I'd like to call on John Runyon for a pop-up about our Alhambra fundraiser.
Yeah, I can't say it. So a quick pop-up at the Alhambra next year, April 24th will be our fundraising social fun event. There's a couple banners in the back if you need more information. We've had a great pre-sign up. We currently have 132 tickets that we've committed to. We might be able to get a few more, but we had to commit to tickets because the show is selling out. The show that we ended up with is Jimmy Buffett, the Escape to Margaritaville. So it's a musical comedy. It was on Broadway, big hit. We're very fortunate that it's coming to Jacksonville and that we were able to secure those tickets. What I need from you today, and next week there'll be another announcement, and then I think we'll have all the tickets sold. That's why we need to get folks that haven't signed up to sign up maybe today and definitely by next week. Then in about a month or two, we'll come back. So don't keep doing pop-ups. We'll talk about sponsorship opportunities. I'd love to see everybody involved in some manner. You may not be able to go to the program, but maybe we'll have a luncheon, sponsorship, things like that, drawings, raffles. But what I need from you today, on the back side, there's a list of names. Those are folks we think that pre-signed up. I need you to make a firm commitment. You might change it, add tickets, drop tickets. The other side is a sign-up sheet for folks that have not signed up yet. Or see me after the meeting or Patty, but please make the commitment as soon as you can, because we have 109 commitments now. We have 132 tickets. There aren't many left, and we're not sure we can get more. So really do appreciate everybody's support to date. Thanks.
Thank you, John, and thank you for all the hard work. Very exciting stuff. Let's remember all the proceeds are going to go to the youth services committee here, and that money will be put to very good use. I'd like to call on Ed Lombard again for a football pool.
Congratulations, Ron Roberts, for winning the pool. Congrats, Ron.
All right, Ron. All right, next announcement, bell ringing sheets are on the tables. So be sure to sign up for Friday, December 2nd at the Publix on Roosevelt. You can also sign up via DAC-DB. And now I'd like to call on Jay Hinderlight for this week's Family of Rotary report.
Thank you, President Dane. Great crowd today. Good to see everybody. I've got lots of birthdays to announce. Before I get to those, any Family of Rotary from the floor? All right, starting with last week, Jim Lanier, November 1st. Happy birthday. Jeff Ludwig, November 2nd. This week, Mike Tindergrass, November 10th. Mary Pat Wallman, also November 10th. And Eric Schultz, November 12th. Happy birthday to everybody. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jay. And now I'd like to call on Sergeant at Arms William Milnes to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians.
Thank you, President Dane. Hello, fellow Rotarians. We do have a number of guests and visiting Rotarians today. When I call by your name, will you please introduce your guests? Tom Schneider, has Nancy arrived?
Sure, she is here. Her wife Nancy. And I also want to introduce Willie Cherry, who is representing One Pledge today. And just one more, I'm going to do a second pop-up. Nancy got this fabulous blanket for having given plus a gift card. Not that you need incentive to give. That's pretty good. So,
Thank you. And again, welcome to Kathy Bennett and to all the wonderful members of Dave Collier's family. Thank you so much for being here. Dave is very missed and always love him. Mr. Alton Yates, welcome back. Will you please introduce your guest?
I got to my wife for 62+ years.
Josh Harrison?
Good morning. I have Mike Ritter. Mike lives for one of my college buddies. Who would imagine you could end up civil service in this community? But he works for Repair Construction. They have a history of a lot of Rotarians giving back. So Mike's visiting our club to see how we go.
Wonderful. Welcome. And Mr. Nicholas, welcome to you as well, sir. And from visiting Rotarians, I want to make sure that we've got everybody. Larry Lunsford. Okay.
He's our speaker today.
Right. And Mickey Ulmer, welcome. And Bob McQueen. Welcome. For anybody who was not written down, this from another club. All right, well, again, welcome. For the fun fact of today, let me bring this up here real quick. The Rotary Youth Leadership Awards began in 1959 when Rotarians from Queensland, Australia, organized a week-long conference for outstanding young people. In 1971, the Rotary International Board officially adopted the RILA as a youth program. The first youth exchange was when the Rotary Club of Copenhagen, Denmark, arranged to host several American boys in 1921. And lastly, Rotarians in the United States make up 28% of all Rotarians worldwide. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, William. Welcome to all of our guests and visiting Rotarians. It's great to have you guys with us today. Now I'd like to call on Ed Lombard one more time to introduce our speaker.
Today is my pleasure to introduce Rotary Trustee Foundation Director Larry Lunsford. He became a personal friend of mine. I met him at his own summit here in Jacksonville a couple of years ago. He's from Mizzou, been married to his beautiful wife Jill for 38 years, has 2 children, expecting his first grandchild in a couple of weeks. Larry's Rotary resume is extensive: club president, district governor, Rotary International Board of Trustees. After 9/11 in New York, raised over $100,000 for Missourians for New York. He does another project he's done over the years is Shoes for Orphans, helping out almost 400,000 children across the world, Russia, Guatemala, and many other countries. Larry is a true Rotarian, big Chiefs fan. Let's give a warm West Jacksonville welcome to Larry Lunsford.
Good afternoon. It is a real pleasure to be at the West Jacksonville Rotary Club. I've heard a lot of great things about this club, and now I'm getting a chance to see that firsthand. I appreciate the invitation from your past president, Ed Lombard, to join you, and President Dane, and all of you who have participated in this club meeting today have done a fantastic job. I'm thinking about a few of the things that I've experienced already. And I appreciate Ed mentioning my wife, Jill, and the fact that we are headed to a new chapter of life in just a few weeks with a healthy grandson, we hope. And he mentioned that we've been married 38 years, and that's just getting started compared to this great couple that we had a chance to hear from just moments ago. And that's inspiring at every level. So thank you for sharing. I was intrigued by well, let me also say that I appreciate Ed getting it out right out of the gate that I am a Chiefs fan and a Mizzou fan. So that will color the way that you hear my remarks from the rest of the time that I have here. I understand that. I found a couple of weeks ago with some of the other colleagues and visiting Rotarians that are here that we happen to be in Nassau. Tough duty, I understand, but we happen to be in Nassau at a Rotary Institute, which is as this club is a part of a district, and that district is part of a zone. And so that was Rotarians from probably 12 or 13 states and throughout the Caribbean. And when they heard I was from Kansas City, the only thing they wanted to talk about was Taylor Swift. And so I feel, you know, how sometimes you have a district governor or a visiting Rotarian come through, and if they have a chance at the microphone, they say, well, I bring you greetings from the Kansas City Plaza Rotary Club. I guess I'm obligated to say I bring you greetings from Taylor Swift. But in all fairness, I did think that the Jaguars would get the Chiefs in week 2 this year. Your colleague Ed Lombard is soft pedaling the Jaguars. I'm a little concerned about the Jaguars in the playoffs. Ed says he thinks they're still a year or 2 away, but I'm not convinced of that. Maybe a year ago, when he and I took in the Jaguars Chiefs game in Kansas City, it was nice to host him. Maybe that was the case, but I'm not sure today. But while I could spend a lot of time talking to you about SEC football, ACC football, and the NFL, that's not the real purpose for my time with you. And so I find it interesting that we had this juxtaposition, this coupling of this wonderful memoriam for Dave, and then immediately followed by a new member to the Rotary Club in Austin. I think there's a message that each of us can take from that as we journey through Rotary together. I recognize some will be coming in and out because of the blood donor opportunities, and certainly that's more important than anything I have to say. So I encourage that. Our club as well, my club is a Friday breakfast club. And I want to say that it's really nice to come to a Rotary Club, to be very honest, because in my travels as one of your 15 trustees of your Rotary Foundation, I must admit that I do not get to my Rotary Club all that often on a Friday morning. So it is nice to be a part of this meeting. And
our club just kind of got back in the rhythm after the pandemic of having our first fundraiser. So I was happy to hear ours happened to be a pickleball tournament, which was really, really nicely successful. And I appreciated hearing about your fundraiser. I would finish my thoughts about what I've experienced with you so far by saying that I am also in the football pool next week. So, Ed, you have my proxy to, if I were to happen to win, which would be the first time in my life that I've ever won in a football pool, please pick another of your colleagues and share with them the vast winnings that must come with that. So I'm here today to very briefly give you a shareholders report about your Rotary Foundation. Because I'm hopeful, though many of us have not had a chance to meet, I'm hopeful that each of you at some way and at some level are shareholders of our Rotary Foundation. And if you are, I'm here to say thank you, and please continue that support. And if for some of you, the connection to the journey that the Rotary Foundation adds to your journey as a Rotary Club member, I hope that I'll say something along the few moments that we have together that might inspire a question or some more thought about connecting to our Rotary Foundation. I have a feeling at 56 years and going strong, seeing this list of past district governors, that there's a good rhythm in this club regarding support of the Rotary Foundation. But in the annual calendar of a Rotary Club, right, November is Rotary Foundation month. And so a year ago, Ed and I agreed that I'd come during Rotary Foundation month, and I'm honored to be at the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville, because it's appropriate to thank each of you for the time that you spend in Rotary along your life's journey and for your service in this local community. But it's okay as well, every now and again, I would suggest, to connect to the big wide world of Rotary beyond the club level. And the best tool that we have as Rotarians and Rotary clubs to do that, in my humble view, is through the Rotary Foundation. So I want to give you a quick sense of the scale of how the work that you do and how the connections that you have to the Rotary Foundation ladder up worldwide with all the nearly 1.2 million Rotarians in over 37,000 Rotary clubs now. We have last year raised about $427 million. So your Rotary Foundation is of some scale. And that allows us to do over 1,100 global grants throughout the world. One of the best parts, in my view, of our Rotary Foundation, and I hope you agree, is that we have the benefit of providing support to the Rotary Foundation. And then the Rotary Foundation sends much of that money over a period of time back to local districts to have the opportunity to spend that money through grant programs, both globally and within this district, within this region. And so the beauty, in my view, one takeaway I hope today is that it's Rotarians providing the support, Rotarians at much level deciding how to spend that money, and particularly with these global grants, you're working with Rotarians around the world, and it's Rotarians to Rotarians to Rotarians. And I think that adds strength to our Rotary Foundation. 1,100 global grants I mentioned, 470 district grants. So your club, a part of this particular district, 6970. And so it took a district grant, and I'm confident that this club, I'm hopeful, but confident that this club has connected in that way. And last year, we also did 310 other grants. That is a growing element of our Rotary Foundation, at some level, unfortunately, growing because it's disaster response grants. I'm confident you connected with the efforts with Ukraine some months ago. And Rotary has never really viewed itself as a disaster response organization. Can we agree on that? There are other organizations that are more standardly a disaster response organization. But Rotarians want to help when those things happened, and that's never been any more significant than what happened in Ukraine. So we had a general disaster response fund that has now led to creating if the Rotary Foundation trustees determine that there's a disaster of magnitude, and what happened in Ukraine was determined to be a similar, an example of that, we now have specific disaster response funds. So I want you to know that we have a general disaster response fund and occasionally specific disaster response funds that led to 310 grants. Now, I am a CPA by training. Ed didn't mention that. I always try to get that out early as well. But there are some meanings in numbers, and I'm going to share just a couple more, and then I'm going to start to bridge into some other bullet points. Certainly want to take some questions at the end as time allows. So there's a scale of a $427 million budget every year. And this year we're looking to raise $500 million through our annual fund, which drives the annual programs. You know, our corporate program, which is polio eradication, right? And then we have an endowment fund, an annual fund driving the current programs, polio specifically driven toward that eradication effort. We're almost there. And then our endowment fund. 3 opportunities that you have to connect your Rotary journey and at some level your Rotary legacy through the Rotary Foundation. You know about our polio efforts, don't you? You keep track of that, I'm sure. 10 cases this year, 2 countries, and the areas where there's still the wild polio virus in Pakistan and Afghanistan are concentrated in like a singular district. Let's call it a singular county in a state. It's not just pervasive through the country, I want you to realize. And I was blessed to be in Manchester, England at a zone institute in September. And the leader of the polio eradication effort for the World Health Organization, whom you know is one of our partners, along with the Center for Disease Control and UNICEF, Gavi, the vaccine. Aidan O'Leary, the polio eradication chief of the World Health Organization, stood in front of a crowd just like this, and he did this. He said, the world is closing in on the polio virus. And that's something all of you can take pride in, and we will stay with that, won't we, until we finish that task. We raise $50 million a year for that. You know, it gets matched 2 for 1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is not a bad partner to have. And the fact that that foundation partners with Rotary adds value and substance to every one of you sitting here today and your Rotary membership. I wanted to talk to you about 2 other things very quickly in terms of the scale. So the Rotary Foundation has this annual engine, if we're together, but we also have our endowment, which has about $650 million in net assets currently, and about $1 billion in commitments, bequests, wills, trusts, future legacy giving. We're in a campaign right now, the first campaign of its type, I would say, with the Rotary Foundation, where we're looking to get that scale to $2.025 billion by June 30, 2025, which is not that far away. And I just cited to you that we're about at the $1.65 billion to $1.7 billion range with those 2 parts that I mentioned, the $650 million in net assets and the $1 billion in commitments. And that's this endowment fund that I talked about along the way with the annual fund, the polio fund, and the endowment fund. So I hope that that gives you a sense very quickly as shareholders of the Rotary Foundation that what you do here in West Jacksonville matters. And there's a lot of other people around the world who feel the same way about it, right? And they love what the work of the Rotary Foundation is. We believe that we're good stewards. That's part of my role as a trustee, part of my role as a trustee of the foundation. I serve as one of the 15 trustees and international board. And it's our job to develop really good programs with the support you provide. It's our job to create the kind of stewardship, and it's our job to fundraise and grow those programs. And that's what's a blessing of a 4-year term as a trustee, a volunteer in Rotary, a trustee of your Rotary Foundation. I'm honored to be a Rotary Foundation trustee, and I'm going to come back to that with another perspective in just a second. So sometimes people say, well, what is Rotary going to do after we eradicate polio. Have any of you ever sat around the table and kicked that around? Some of you have, I know. And the answer to that is still unknown because we have to, first of all, eradicate polio, and we believe that we will. But what I would suggest to you as you continue your Rotary journey, as you read the Rotary magazine each month, one of the things that we've been doing for now 3 years is something that's called the programs of scale, where we take all the money that I'm talking about here, and we have these great programs like global grants and district grants. And some of these global grants can be really big dollar grants, $250,000, $300,000 grants. We're looking around the world, including in Florida, to find districts and clubs who put together global grants, and are they scalable? And the Rotary Foundation trustees are giving now a $2 million grant to projects like that are scalable. And not only are we trying to accomplish more efficient, larger scale grants with more impact on the one hand, but we're also looking to see what might coalesce as a possible, what will we do after polio? Are we together? So that's what we're trying to accomplish by these programs of scale. We've got 3 of them in the works right now. The first one was malaria prevention in Zambia, across the country. We're trying to take, generally speaking, grants that are doing work in certain countries and seeing if they can be scaled to like the countrywide level, and then can they be scaled even further. The first, malaria prevention in Zambia. The second was maternal and child health efforts in Nigeria. And the third is to end cervical cancer in Egypt. Now, at some level, it's a Wednesday, it's November, there's another football weekend coming. I get it, friends. But at another level, these are significant efforts going on around the world. Rotary, connected to Rotary, connected to Rotary. And I hope you take some pride in that, knowing that for those of you that do donate to the Rotary Foundation, that you're playing a small part in that good work around the world. Finally, I wanted to share with you about Rotary's efforts in peace and conflict resolution. Do you follow this in Rotary's efforts? So for the last 20 years, Rotary has been about the process of trying to educate those that want to pursue this as a career to do our part. Peace is in the DNA of every single person in this room. Peace is part of what Rotary proceeds. Thank you for closing the door. I appreciate that. Thank you. Not because I'm going to head to the fundraising side of my suggest, but simply to allow people to hear. And thank you for allowing me to be playful. Peace. You know, this is a time of our lives and in our world where we are getting a reinforcement that it's a good thing that Rotary is pursuing some help toward a more peaceful world. All those projects, all the things that you do week in and week out here in Jacksonville, in this West Jacksonville Club, and all these things that I can bring forth in just a few minutes today that the Rotary Foundation helps with, all of those things in all of our areas of focus all lead toward a more peaceful world. So keep at it, friends. I'm thrilled when I get an opportunity to stand in front of a group and share in a shareholders report kind of setting that the business of the Rotary Foundation is growing. We're raising more money than we ever have. We're giving more grants than we ever have. We've still got to pursue polio. We're after these programs of scale, and we're educating these Peace Fellows through our Peace Fellows program. Are you aware that we are partnered with Rotary and 5 universities around the world who have as one of their primary disciplines peace and conflict resolution, and we select 10 2-year master's degree program candidates every year to every one of those 5 universities. We believe in this program so much that we're coming underneath that with 1-year certificate programs, and we want to grow this by 2030 to 4 other places around the world. We're growing our peace footprint. We have one of these 1-year certificate program centers in Thailand. A second just opened 2 years ago in Uganda. A third will be opening in the beginning of 2025 in Bahçeşehir University in Turkey. And we're hopeful for another in South America, because about 5 years ago, we set forth on a 10 or 12-year journey to expand the peace footprint of Rotary's work and have a center in Asia, a center in Africa, a center in the Middle East, and a center in Latin America. And soon we'll have 3 of those 4. I will say that while it's been a period of time that we have had one of these centers, peace centers in Thailand, we've recently stopped our relationship with that university because it wasn't quite at the Rotary standard that we wanted. And so we are now going through another search for another of these one-year certificate programs in Asia. So 2 are open. 1 is open in Uganda, 1 will be open in Turkey, and then we're still looking for Asia, and then we're still waiting on the funding for Latin America. You know about Charity Navigator, right? Charity Navigator is the largest U.S.-based evaluator of U.S. charities. And we have, your Rotary Foundation for 15 years in a row now has received the highest rating, 4 stars, from Charity Navigator. And I'm hopeful that that adds to what I'm attempting to give voice to today about your Rotary Foundation. I believe that the reasons that you love the Rotary Foundation is because you believe in it, you trust it, you know that it's Rotary to Rotary to Rotary, and it's a job for a trustee to maintain that integrity. All of this happens for one reason, right? And it's because of the support that I'm hopeful all of you, or most of you, or at least many of you, provide, hopefully annually, as one of your charities of choice to the Rotary Foundation. It really is, friends, a big, wide world of Rotary beyond the great work in the West Jacksonville Rotary. So I stand in front of you, and I'm going to say thank you in 2 ways. The first way is to simply say thank you for those of you who have made a donation in your Rotary time to the Rotary Foundation. Some of you do that routinely, and maybe you do that annually. Thank you for that. Some of you are Paul Harris Fellows. How many of you are Paul Harris Fellows? And there's the room. There's the room. Thank you for being Paul Harris Fellows. Some of you are members of the Paul Harris Society, which is a commitment of $1,000 per year. And I hope that if you're not, that you'll consider that, because the work that we do is worthy of that kind of consideration. Some of you may be major donors. Some of you may have been giving for many, many, many years to the Rotary Foundation. Some of you may have made a bequest to the Rotary Foundation. And for each of you for whom that fits, I'm here to say thank you. But I mentioned that I was going to say thank you a couple of ways, and let me take a crack at it a second way. I hope you can tell that this business of the Rotary Foundation means a lot to me. I hope that you can tell that. I mean, fair enough, I flew from Kansas City. I mean, I had to, do a little advanced scouting for the Jaguars as well, I guess, but in case we meet in the playoffs. But I was in Ohio last week, and I made that reference and fell right into the Michigan-Ohio State thing. And they went around for happy bucks after I made that comment. I made just a few brief comments, and I made that comment playfully about, having a scouting trip toward the Bengals. And a guy at the end of the happy bucks, he was kind of sitting like at the table back here. He said, "Larry, it's great. I've been to Kansas City a few times. I love the barbecue. I'm glad we've got somebody in the club from Kansas City. But that notion about advanced scouting, you might want to reconsider that given the Jim Harbaugh stuff." And I said, "Well, I duly note that. I duly note that." But the reason that this means so much to me is because you're looking at someone right here, doesn't have a whole lot of hair, has some faults being a Chiefs fan or Mizzou fan, but I am a beneficiary of the Rotary Foundation. Someone asked me earlier, how long have you been a member of your Rotary Club? And I answered proudly that I've been a member of my Rotary Club for 32 years. I joined Rotary in 1991. I've been a member of the same club, that Friday Breakfast Club. I'm looking forward to getting re-engaged with them at some point in time here after the blessings of serving as a Rotary Foundation trustee. But I came to Rotary. I mean, I watched Austin come to Rotary today. And I came to Rotary as a 23-year-old guy, as a graduate student at the University of Newcastle in New South Wales, Australia, because I was awarded a Rotary Foundation ambassadorial scholarship. So, really, I get it. I feel it right here. I understand what it means to be a beneficiary of the giving, the generous giving, the continuous giving of Rotarians just like are assembled here today in the West Jacksonville Rotary Club. Changed my life. It's why we're here together. I'm still trying to pay it back. You're darn right I'm willing to fly from Kansas City and land in Jacksonville at midnight last night and speak at the West Jacksonville Rotary Club. You're darn right I'm willing to do that because it's all paid back for me and I'm way behind. And so I'm happy to be here today. And for some people saying, oh, well, the bigwig's here, or oh, here's the important guy. Well, fair enough. Maybe some of that really is true because I'm a trustee of the Rotary Foundation. So maybe it's fair enough that I take an opportunity as a trustee of the Rotary Foundation to come and say thank you. But I feel like I have a more important role, and I hope I've tried to fill that today, to be a beneficiary representative for each of you. And look around the room and say thank you for all the beneficiaries, not only of your great work locally in Jacksonville, Florida, and in this region, but also for all the people around this big, wide world of Rotary who need us. Our Rotary Foundation needs to continue to grow because our business is never going to run out of customers who are in need. And I'm honored to be a beneficiary of the Rotary Foundation and to try to represent for you today the gratefulness and thankfulness that beneficiaries all around the world have. So I hope that you'll continue to consider how the Rotary Foundation, your Rotary Foundation, can assist you for the full value of your Rotary journey. And I'm hopeful that something that I've said to you today will spark continuing support and also may have sparked a question or two, which it looks like it's time for. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm really, really pleased to be with great Rotarians like you. Thank you.
If you have a question, please let me know and I'll walk right over to you.
Thank you so much. Great presentation. When we were in Atlanta at the International Convention years ago, there was a lot of rumors on Polio Plus or just chatter amongst Rotarians that the next or the plus would represent addressing human trafficking. Can you just talk about that issue and that worldwide problem?
Thank you for that. That is among the areas that continues to surface as a possibility for future consideration more corporately by Rotary. Nothing has subsided, I would suggest, since 2017. That convention was a launching point to making Rotarians and districts around the world aware, how significant this is. It continues to gain traction in more and further places. I would suggest that at the moment it hasn't coalesced to a level, because nothing's really coalesced to a level that's a clear answer to that question. What will we do after polio? Because first we'll have to decide, do we want to tackle another corporate program? I would be an advocate that we do because it unites us around the world. There are some around the world who say it's going to be a huge celebration when we do have the final certification for the eradication of polio. But when we started that almost 40 years ago, nobody would have thought it would have taken 40 years. And I don't mean that to be a critical assessment. It's just kind of a reality. So it will provide information as to what would the scope be for that next thing. But human trafficking continues to be a large problem close to us and all around, and it has gained momentum among Rotarians since 2017.
Larry, thank you very much for coming today. What is the percentage of the giving from the United States? And what is the percentage that the money comes back to the United States?
Good questions. The United States, as you might expect, is the largest giving country to the Rotary Foundation. It would be interesting to poll you in terms of who you think the next 3 or 4 are, but in the absence of taking the time to do that, it would be Korea, India, Brazil, and Taiwan, if you were to stack up the 5 largest giving countries. In terms of how much of that money comes back to the United States, it would not be proportionate. That money's going and serving other parts of the world more than it is serving in the United States. However, having said that, one of the things that has happened over the last short decade that is changing that is this notion of district grants. Remember, I talked about global grants and district grants. Forever, it's a natural thing to say, well, you know, if we're giving that support, we'd like to see some of that benefit. There's an altruism that we all have about being fine with if we're giving it and we know it's helping somebody in Africa or India, that we're all good with that as well. But these district grants allow more opportunity. Some of that money we give comes back to the district. The district says, West Jacksonville put together a $5,000 project and the district will give you $2,500. So the Rotary Foundation is helping fund a district grant to do something in Jacksonville. And that's happening, as I mentioned, I think the number of, we have about 530 districts around the world and 470 of them now make use of that. And I would venture to say almost every United States-based district is probably doing that. And so it is a growing amount of money that is coming back to the United States and helping through district grants. And I'll finish the answer by saying that there are more and more what we would call in the United States, which is not really a technical term, but we would call it a reverse global grant. We would kind of say a global grant is when we're helping those places around the world. Reverse global grants are where we now partner with a district in Nigeria or a district in India, and you've got a big project for human trafficking, let's say, or something of that ilk, whatever the needs are here in Jacksonville, and you could get a global grant as well. All it takes is an international sponsor. Yes, United States often is the international sponsor for this work going on in the world, but the reverse of that is also true. So from 2 standpoints, the trend line is more of that money coming back to the United States, or any country could say that, because the notion of the district grant was to flip that dynamic and say, not only are you giving and others are benefiting, but you're giving and you can benefit locally, because when people can see the benefit, they're more prone to give. Thank you for the question.
So appreciate you getting, Larry. I was reading after next year, they're going away with the themes for the presidential year. So if you could just expound on that for a minute. Thank you.
Well, I can tell you what I know about that. Since the mid-50s, there's always been a presidential theme, and here's the one this year, the President of Rotary Nationals from Scotland, an excellent theme to create hope in the world. So Ed's question speaks to continuity of leadership. Each of you as business leaders have probably thought in your Rotary journey that it's a blessing and a curse that Rotary turns its leadership over every year. You would never do that in your businesses necessarily, speaking generally. But Rotary has always had this rhythm of changing its leadership every year, which can be a blessing because it's new ideas and freshness, but it can be a curse for continuity. There is a governance sense in Rotary right now that we need to build more continuity. Not that we don't get good continuity among those year-by-year leaders. Your club would be an example of how your president chain works together. Your district would be an example of how your district governors and those coming work together. But at the Rotary level, the board of directors, not our board of trustees, this is a little bit of a Rotary International question, which I'm cool with. The board of directors just recently took this decision that they feel like the fact that we have a that every president seems to have an emphasis, and that we have these themes. If they lessen continuity, we want to get away from them. And so next year, at the moment, next year will be the last year that the president will have a theme and perhaps their own initiatives. And so that will allow us hopefully to corporately be on a little bit more of a straight line if there are people that think that there's a zig and a zag to the strategy when you change leadership every year. I hope that helps, Ed.
You mentioned that there were 15 trustees,
Yes.
you being one of them. You also mentioned that there were other countries that gave along with the United States. How are the trustees appointed, and how many of them are U.S. trustees versus maybe foreign trustees?
Excellent question. I usually get up here prepared to list all the countries that they're from, but I might fail that today, okay? But there are 15 trustees. They are elected by the Rotary International Board of Directors for a 4-year term. So every year, or in a 4-year sequence, you have a class of 4 trustees, 4 trustees, 4 trustees, and 3 trustees for 15. Right now, there are 4 from the United States. And we have trustees from Australia, Pakistan, India, Taiwan, Korea, Germany, Kenya, the worldwide focus that you would want. Similarly, our board of directors of the Rotary International side of things is comprised that way with an international perspective. And so those 15 trustees, again, elected by the board of directors, meet quarterly, typically. We typically have 2 meetings a year. We just had a meeting in October. We typically have 2 meetings a year in Evanston, our world headquarters. We have a 3rd meeting these days in Orlando around the International Assembly when we are going to have the Rotary World together. And our last meeting of the year is always connected to the International Convention. So a lot of committee work on a board of trustees, just like a club and its committees, a district and its committees, a lot of international committee work. I serve on the finance, of course, the finance committee and the investment committee. And we select a vice chair every year who would assume the role of chair if something happened to the chair, as is similar to Rotary International, who selects a vice president every year who would serve as president if something happened to the president. And I'm honored to be the vice chair next year, so in my last year of service. So the composition ebbs and flows, but I'll finish by saying that if you remember some of the names of the countries that I mentioned, you can be assured that there's probably a trustee from those countries. There's a connection at some level. I mentioned Taiwan, India, I think I mentioned Brazil, and right now the Latin American, South American representative on the trustees is from Mexico. Previously it was Brazil. So there's a reflection, I think, at some level, elected by the board of directors, of where is the support, where is the energy, where is the leadership, and then that kind of reflects at the board of trustee level. I appreciate the question. One more. Thank you.
Larry, thank you for coming. The question I had is kind of like his question. I heard that the next point of emphasis would be clean water, and I thought clean water would be a better thing that has universal appeal. But I was wondering how that would be selected and who will select it. Thank you.
I love that. Now, if we had 50 people in the room stand up, we could have 50 different statements just like that. Can we agree on that, perhaps? So it's all good. When we say we heard, that's kind of the dinner table talk and the hallway talk and those sorts of things. We have 7 areas of focus. We've been around the disease prevention thing for 40 years. So there's a lot of ideas out there. There's a lot of things that people may have heard that might be the next thing in Rotary. There's a lot of people who are around clean water who would like clean water. There are a lot of people who are around maternal and child health that would like maternal. You see that, and that's all good. It'll make us better. How will it be selected? It'll be determined by a combination of the Rotary International Board of Directors and the trustees of the Rotary Foundation. There'll be a decision made that this will be the corporate program. Staff will help us develop that decision process and the areas of focus or the projects that might be. Clean water is certainly worthy, and a lot of things start with water. I think that speaks to the question, and there has not been any dialogue in my 2.5 years on the trustees yet about the topic of what will be next. And I don't think at the board of directors either. And that's not because we're not looking forward, because I shared with you the notion of the programs of scale, right? We've got to be prepared with some opportunities, some options. But in terms of real dialogue about that, it's still going to be, well, I heard this or I heard that, or other people surfacing good ideas, because both boards are committed, and I would suggest appropriately so, that we need to eradicate polio before we really have a healthy debate about what the next thing will be. Yeah. And as I said, as one senior leader, we're called senior leaders, as one senior leader, I think there's something about building team. I think the fact that we've tackled and we will eventually eradicate polio has been a good thing for every single one of us. And certainly our standing in the world, our attraction to partners, all of those things that all of you in business know are the significant, important things. And Rotary is getting better at that every day, but we still have some room to grow. We're 650 million. We have a really strong partner, but we need more. And so when you talk about, when I take the question and move it and reshape it into opportunities that we have in front of us, there's a full landscape of things that we can step into. And once we eradicate polio, we're going to be in the best shape we've ever been to be able to stand even more boldly on the worldwide stage and say, look, let's partner together. Let's tackle clean water. Let's tackle human trafficking. Let's tackle malaria. Let's tackle another disease. It's healthy discussion, and it keeps us motivated, and it gives us something to connect with. You've been very gracious to listen to me, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to come to this Rotary Club, and I wish you all the best and keep up the great work of Rotary.
Larry, on behalf of the entire club, thank you again. We'd like to present you with this as a small token of our appreciation. Thank you very much. And it's also a privilege to let you know that the entire club will be making a donation to the foundation in your honor. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.
What a terrific organization. Prevention of malaria in Zambia, eradication of cervical cancer in future. Very exciting things. I would like to make a quick correction to an earlier announcement. The bell ringing at Publix will actually be Saturday, December 2nd. I believe I accidentally said Friday, but December 2nd is indeed a Saturday. A reminder, next week, our speaker will be Doug Milne, for everybody's favorite presentation of the entire year. So that being said, I would like to ask Judge Holsey to lead us in the four-way test.
Four-way test of the things you think, say, do. First.
Is it true?
Second.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you for everybody coming out today. Once again, welcome to all of our guests and visiting Rotarians. Let's go make the world a better place.